A young man is trapped on the mountain. He is alone. The young woman is lost in the forest. She is also alone, but faces death, and Pop work hard to survive. The spotlight on these two young people and how they survive extreme accident. In April 2003, Aaron Glasser was 27. He lived in Utah, the United States. He loved to hike and take long walks in nature. In April in 26, he went along the plain
climbed,
into a deep, narrow valley.
valley,
But then he had an accident. A huge rock fell down the mountain. The rock landed on his hand, crushing it. Roston was trapped. Roston had not told anyone where his world going to work, so he knew that no one would be searching for him. People did not usually hide in the area. He knew that he would die if he could not free his hand.
crushing,
It. He tried to move the rock. He wanted to release his hand. He tried very hard, but he could not move the rock. Finally, on the second day, he considered cutting off his arm, but he only had a small knife. It would not cut through the bone in his arm. He just
struggled,
to escape for 5 days. Then he had no more water to drink. He was very weak, and he could not think clearly. He thought he was going to die, so he closed his lamp on his side of the mountain, and he recorded a final message for his family. Then he went to sleep. The next morning, he was still alive. He was satisfied. Suddenly, he had new energies. He had a new idea. He decided to use his own unpolitic way to crack upon his aim. Then he cut off his hand with a small knife. It took him a long time to cut his hand off, and it was very painful. But at last he was free. But Dalton was still not safe. He was about 15 kilometers from his car, and he had no telephone. He had to go to find help. He climbed down a 19th-century mountain tour. Then he started walk out of the valley. The sun was hot, and he had no water to drink. He was also losing a lot of blood. But then he found a group of people. It was a family who were on holiday. They helped him. They gave him water to drink. Finally, he was rescued. It was only 6 hours after cutting off his arm. Later, Dr. fitted a phone hands to his arm. It includes special climbing tools, and Roston can still go climbing. He has climbed many mountains since the accident, but now he always tells people where he's going. In December 1971, Julian Colfax was 17. She and her mother were flying home for Christmas. The airplanes were over Peru, but the airplane flew into a very bad storm. The airplane went up and down. Then lightning hit lightning hit it. Hit it. The engine stopped. The airplane began to fall toward the ground. When it was 3 kilometers above the earth, it broke into pieces. Comet was still tied into her seat. He fell through the air alone. All she heard was the noise of the wind blowing past her ears. Then he hit the ground very hard. The seat saved her from being killed, but he suffered a broken bone in her chest. He had deep cut on her body, and she could not open her dry eyes. Kid Rock had landed in the Amazon rainforest. He looked for her mother, but she could not find her. He heard rescue airplanes above the trees, but the forest was very thick, so she could not see the airplane. The rescuer could not see her, but Rocket knew how to survive in the forest environment. Her parents were scientists. They studied birds and animals that live in the rainforest, and Copper had lived in the rainforest with her parents. He found a very small river. He began to walk in it. She followed the direction in the river followed. He knew it would bring her to people. It also provided her with clean water to drink. However, Coral Rock had no food. She only had a few sweet candy trees. He avoided the snake by walking in water, but he could not avoid insects. They bit her a lot, and the pipe became infected. It was very hot and wet in the day, and it was very cold at night. By the 10th day, Koche was very quick and very lonely. He began working near a glass driver. Then Cobble saw a big boat.
Boat.
She thought she was dreaming. She went to touch the boat. It was beautiful. Near the boat was a shelter. This discovery gave her new hope. She knew there must be people in the area. Several hours later, some men returned to the shelter. He worked in the forest cutting trees. They cared for her injuries. They gave her food. The next day, they took her down the river to find help. The boat trip took 7 hours. Cobb's fathers were waiting for her. They held each other. They still did not know if Cobb's mother was alive. They had been 92 passengers and crew on the airplane. Later, they discovered that Kava was the only survivor of the
Crash.
More than 40 years later, Cobble spoke to the reporter Tom Littlewood. She told him, "I have passed dreams for many years, as the sadness about my mother's death and that of the poorer older people came back again and again. The thought, why were I the only survivor, never pleased me. It never knew will." Sculpture now lives in Germany. She returned to Peru every year. She loved the rainforest